What's up, Buttercups? Welcome to Mean Age Daydream with me, your host, Brian McWilliams, here on the Lions of Liberty Network. I am very excited to talk to you today because really the topic, and as I titled this episode, the topic of idiotic leftist ideas, plans, protests, political concepts, ideologies. They just don't seem to ever not double down. And they don't, it's funny. It's interesting for me to think about this because you'll have a lot of people. And I remember watching 90 Day Fiance. Now, I know, don't judge me for watching 90 Day Fiance. I laughed my ever-loving ass off watching this show. And we used to do a podcast, and we still do a podcast, the first episode podcast, where we review first episodes of shows. But we used to do a show called Bravo and Beer. And the concept of the show was that three straight guys sit around and watch Bravo shows, which are primarily made for chicks, and other shows of that ilk with 90 Day Fiance as part of it, and just make fun of them. And it was shockingly popular. You know, we had a lot of followers. It was growing exponentially. It probably would have overtaken this podcast quickly, except we couldn't take watching the shows anymore because they were so annoying that we gave up on it. And, and all our female audience left. But we're watching 90 Day Fiance. And one of the things that was amazing to me was how these idiot people, really dumb people, would have all this money and have all this success. And I was like, how do they do it? And Rico, who, of course, our legal counsel here at Lions of Liberty and a frequent contributor, less so now that we've gotten 5 days a week, but he's still on some of our bonus shows. He had said, well, you know what it is? Stupid people they follow through with everything. They don't say no. They don't overthink it. They don't stop. They don't analyze the risk reward. They don't analyze whether or not it makes sense. They just go and do it. And sometimes that just works out, Now, with leftists, it's the same thing, except it never works out. It never has a good outcome. But the leftist population, the progressive population, has an amazing penchant for just following through with the stupidest ideas possible. The latest one, and by the way, I'm not going to go down the litany of horrible progressive concepts and ideas like censorship, like the welfare state, like, forced DEI policies that have resulted in nothing but catastrophe, open border immigration concepts. And I know a lot of you listening are open borders people, but it doesn't work when you have a welfare state. And it doesn't work when you have mass immigration coming in that completely undermines your culture, which, by the way, libertarians, if you're for open borders and mass immigration in the context of our current society, you have to understand that the impetus of the global organizations that undermine liberty, that undermine freedom, that undermine free markets, that are seeking to control everything you do, part and parcel of what they do is destroying your community and your shared culture, because your shared culture allows you to trust and bond with those around you, that enables you to fight back against a government coming in and trying to take over your society and undermine your core values. If you have mass immigration of people that are not acculturated, have no interest in that, and are in fact your enemies in every sense of the word, because they are simply not trying to assimilate, not trying to become acculturated with you or become friends with you, but want to dominate you, you are playing into the global elite's goals of destroying liberty. Just putting that out there. Now that I said I wasn't going to go down that road, but I did. Getting back to this leftist prerogative and following through, ramming your face into a brick wall over and over again, because they never will not double down on the dumbest ideas. I'm watching one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in my life unfold. Now, there was a protest, an anti-ICE protest. And of course, who's leading the charge here? White, liberal, old women, because that's always who's leading the charge nowadays. But they are leading the charge in protests against ICE in Minneapolis and in Minnesota. Now, what is the protest they're doing? They are going to Target, buying all the salt, and then returning it. Now, what is this going to accomplish? Absolutely nothing. Liberals will tell you, well, the idea is that we don't want Target selling ice to ICE. I'm sorry, selling salt to ICE because, I guess the salt can be used to salt the roads so that ICE can get to the people to take them back. It's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. It is a perfect example of thinking of something with no critical thought behind it as to what the actual meaning is, what the impact would be beyond inconveniencing the people that work at Target, who, by the way, are the exact same people that liberals will tell you that they stand up for. The people that are working at Target are probably people that are, either older, that are immigrants, legal immigrants or otherwise, that are not going to be making a ton of money. And you're now going in and wrecking their day to do what? ICE is not going to stop enforcing what they're doing because you're going in and buying salt from Target. Nor are they going to give a shit if you're going to return it and causing delays in the shopping lines. All you're doing is twinkling your twat with this protest because you think that you're so important, because you want to be on social media going, yeah, I did something today. That's it. And it's such a stupid idea that they followed through with it with proud, everybody clap each other on the back. Everybody get a big picture in front of the Target. Like, this keeps playing out. It keeps playing out. It's playing out in every aspect of progressivism. This refusal to take a step back and be like, does this idea make sense? Do people want this? Is this actually going to resonate? Like I said, this is in every aspect. Politics, entertainment. Look what's going on in entertainment. Look what's going on with Starfleet Academy. I talked about Starfleet Academy on earlier shows. It's getting lambasted because it is a show set in the future where they've already solved hunger, where they've already solved, housing. They've already solved obesity. They've already solved issues with eyes. And it features nothing but fat lesbians with ocular issues. Like, you're going back in time. It doesn't make sense. It's forced idiocy. It undermines everything Star Trek ever stood for. And nobody wants to watch it. But some liberal went, we're going to make a super woke, diverse version of this show that's going to cost us hundreds of millions of dollars. And nobody went, who's going to watch it? Why would anybody think this is good? Why would anybody think that this would resonate? This is every liberal concept that we're seeing. This is your women going out and, whether or not you think the woman hit the ICE officer and it wasn't warranting him to shoot back, whether you think that he was warranted shooting back. The point is, and I can't remember if I said this in a Good Morning extra bonus rant for our Patreon Pride people or politics people. The point is, why are you putting yourself in that situation to begin with, to be perfectly honest? There's no way you should be putting yourself in that situation, risking your life for somebody that you don't know and don't have any, that could give two shits about you. These women that are progressive, leaving their kids at home, their children at home, then posting on social media, crying about having to leave their children at home to go and protest ICE. What is wrong with you? You being out there is not effective. What it is bringing is danger upon your family. Like, where are your priorities at? And this is all of these stupid ideas. Like, the priorities have completely fallen off to the wayside of these people. They've lost any sight of what is actually going to impact society or resonate. And it's completely focused on this, this myopic view of self-aggrandization and promotion within their liberal social circle. That's all it is. It's honestly depressing to behold. And the fact that they can learn nothing ever. I mean, the entire Democrat political sphere learns nothing. Their policies never change. They never stop pushing forward the worst ideas with the worst outcomes. California is a perfect example. I live here. Instead of backing off of these horrible policies, they're doubling down on everything. More homeless spending, more welfare spending, more illegal immigrant spending, more raging against the Trump reforms. And I'm not for a lot of what Trump's doing, but when it comes to deregulation, hell yeah. But California still has thousands of homes that burned down due to government malfeasance, due to horrible government hires and bad oversight and bad policies as far as removal of brush. They said they were going to remove red tape so that people could build their houses. None of that's happened. People are selling the properties and at times at a loss because the government's trying to buy them up to put in what? Oh, that's right. Low income housing. But yet Gavin Newsom will double and triple down that he did nothing wrong. This is all Donald Trump's fault. It's just amazing. It's truly amazing to me. They always follow through on the stupidest ideas and will never backtrack. And as I said earlier, though, in a way, it's admirable because they do get things forced through. They do get horrible, horrible policies forced through. There's a reason all these states are failing. There's a reason why we're in so much debt. They're not the only reason on the debt, by the way. But it's amazing how failed the states are. And you look to the European Union and what's going on with their failed states as well. They continue to fail, but they never back down. And it's just like these idiots that I talked about in 90 Day Fiance, these stupid people that got rich. It's the same thing. Just keep going forward. Damn the costs, damn the results. And, once in a blue moon, it works out. And once these people have power, of course, then they can get in on the grift. Homelessness being a perfect example, the welfare state being a perfect example, the whole Somali daycare thing being a perfect example. Social programs are the most ripe for abuse, fraud, and grift. And these people at the very top know that for a fact. And they've got ample foot soldiers who will ram their faces into brick walls for stupid causes in order to get social clout and never admit that they're wrong. And they just enable the people at the top to continue the grift. It's truly, truly amazing. Okay, well, there's that first section out of the way. Next thing I want to talk about, guys. So we're talking about the elites at the very top, right? Getting their portion of the grift and enabling these idiot foot soldiers at the bottom to ram their faces into brick walls. Well, this has been interesting because the World Economic Forum is going on right now. You've got Davos going on right now, or Davos. And Malaise there, which is going to be interesting, seeing him rip into people. But Donald Trump is also there, and he's got some of his secretaries there. Now, this is pretty interesting because Secretary Lutnick at the World Economic Forum had this to say, and I want to say that I'm Brian McWilliams, and I endorse this message coming from Secretary Lutnick. Hold on. There we go.
Davos at the World Economic Forum.
Here we go.
And the Trump administration and myself, we are here to make a very clear point. Globalization has failed the West and the United States of America. It's a failed policy. It is what the WEF has stood for, which is export, offshore, far shore, find the cheapest labor in the world, and the world is a better place for it. The fact is, it has left America behind. It has left the American workers behind. And what we are here to say is that America First is a different model, one that we encourage other countries to consider, which is that our workers come first. We can have policies that impact our workers. Sovereignty is your borders. You're entitled to have borders. You shouldn't offshore your medicine. You shouldn't offshore your semiconductors. You shouldn't offshore your entire industrial base and have it be hollowed out beneath you. You should not be dependent for that which is fundamental to your sovereignty on any other nation. And if you're going to be dependent on someone, it darn well better be your best allies.
Okay, let's leave that there. There we go. All right, let's leave that there. So what's interesting is there's things in that have to be put into context, right? Now, number one, I am for open and free markets. And now that differs, in my opinion, from quote unquote the globalist culture, right? Because globalization and globalist culture is what the WF stands for. And by that, to go a little deeper into what Lutnick's saying here, at least per my opinion, the globalization is not just about, okay, you've got free trade, free markets, you get the cheapest product made, the best from wherever provides it. And we all know this, going back to the history of economics in one lesson, right? Great book by Henry Hazlitt. The optimization of your society means that you do not stop manufacturing. And that's what the United States has primarily done. And what we do manufacture has been completely corrupted by unions. Again, I'll blame the left for that. Unionization, skyrocketing costs for healthcare, which is also the government's fault, right? Between bureaucracy, regulation, obfuscation, tying in bills for the cost of doing business, which again comes down to corporate taxation, comes down to your local authorities regularization. All of these items have driven the cost of manufacturing sky high, right? So there's a lot there that is a problem, all of it caused by government. But it doesn't mean that we should not be importing goods where that makes more sense, right? The idea is that, and Scott Lutnick says this, and he's accurate in this, for your sovereignty, you do need to have manufacturing domestically. If you need products that are core to your society and its protection and its values and its economic worth to trade, you must have manufacturing. And the United States has done a terrible job in continuing to manufacture goods and services, which would help us remain sovereign. At the same time, when you talk about globalization, we're not just talking about free markets and free trade between nations that are making the optimized product for their society, the greatest product output at the lowest cost where people can import it, export it, et cetera, and trade. What we're talking about is also the ripping away of currency, of wealth, of standing from powerful countries and dispersing that elsewhere. That's not free trade. That's what the WEF is trying to do, is actually eradicate the basis of relationships between nations on the basis of trade, and instead rejigger that system with the World Bank, with the World Economic Forum, with the International Monetary Fund, right? Which we pay trillions of dollars into over the course of, however many years, and that is reallocated into these people at the top, building up poor nations, setting up slush funds for themselves to get rich, and taking wealth away from rich nations in order to push this into poor nations that they control, mold, etc. But the concept is also that what comes with globalization is also mass migration, right? Because now they've got power to wield with the money that they're being dispersed, with NGOs they're propping up, with activist groups that they're creating, to try to undermine culture, to try to undermine sovereignty, to get you into debt, because now you have the onus upon you to go and donate to things like NATO and the World Bank and the World Economic Forum and the International Monetary Fund, as I just talked about. All of this sucks wealth away from us. And we don't have that wealth to give, do we? No, we're fucking $40 trillion in debt. By design, by the way. By design. Because all of these different organizations that are dispersing money around the globe, all these debt engines, are intent on undermining the sovereignty, which does come also with a stable currency. Every empire that has crumbled in the past has been directly linked to their empire expanding and their currency being devalued because they get off of a simple standard. All of these things are historic precedents that do not have any, there's no questioning of them, because it's right there in black and white. You can see what happens. So Lutnick is right in that we have to build up manufacturing. Now, what we don't need to do is be protectionist about it and prop up failing industries. What government needs to do is get out of the goddamn way and allow manufacturing to create, to thrive, to expand, to hire without trying to drain them, like the Seattles of the world do, where they're trying to, Washington State is trying to punish corporations that work there, that create there, because it's dominated by Marxist Democrat shitbags who, once again, have the dumbest ideas possible and push forward at all costs. You have a perfect example of that in Washington State, a perfect example in California, where the billionaire tax, which is not going to pass, by the way, has already driven out trillions of dollars in worth from our state by billionaires proactively leaving, because these idiots are trying to tax unrealized capital gains. It's madness. But again, the definition of no matter how dumb the idea, leftists will follow through to the best of their ability. So it's interesting to see Lutnick slapping down the World Economic Forum, and I love it. As I said, there's a lot of shit I hate about Donald Trump and the Trump administration, but there's certain things which I go, you know what? This has to be done. There's always this argument on executive orders and whether or not, like Donald Trump just signed an executive order to bring back insane asylums. Now, insane asylums, from a libertarian perspective, are wholly abhorrent, because you say, okay, you're taking somebody who should not be able to be taken off the street without committing a violent act, and you're institutionalizing them. Now, the counterpoint to that is, living here in Los Angeles, the people that are on the streets, many of which are very violent, many of which are very insane, whether that is drug-induced psychosis or just simple, normal, everyday psychosis, these people do have to be put into asylums. I know that's a slippery slope, but when it comes down to it, what is the alternative? And that's always the question: is when you get so far gone as a society from a position of safety, when a position of regulation or business, when you have to claw back things that have been so far polluted and just filled with the rot of decades of abuse, there is a place where you have to go, this has to happen. And if this is the only way to get this ball going and to kind of claw back some modicum of respect in society and safety in society, then yeah, I understand it. And yes, the worst thing ever is to say we're trading safety for liberty. But the point is, when the liberty's gone, when the liberty is gone, like, for example, if you live in certain sectors of Los Angeles, like Venice was famous for this, Venice, California. And now it's Santa Monica, because Santa Monica allows the homeless to go run roughshod. Santa Monica and Venice were both overrun with homeless. The Venice boardwalk was covered in homeless tents, in needles, in feces, in dead bodies, because some homeless psychopath had chopped someone up and just had a full dismembered corpse in the tent on the beach. There, the sheriff's department came in and said, we're getting these people the fuck out of here. Now, there's nowhere to put these people is the problem. You could chase them off. You could try to, incentivize them to go home, go back to their home state, because so many of these people are bussed in. But there has to be somewhere to put them. And while, yes, you say, I don't want to trade safety for a lack of liberty, but there has to be somewhere. If it's not a prison, where you can't put just crazy people into prison, right? It doesn't work. They're just going to get murdered by other prisoners or be a problem or hurt other people that are there serving their time. Then yes, you have to have an asylum. You have to have somewhere to put these fucking people. And this is where, puritanical libertarianism and I diverge, and where I feel things have to diverge, is that you cannot go out there as a libertarian and simply say, this can't be allowed, when you have the evidence that your ideas, similar to the leftists, right? Don't be a leftist and double down on bad ideas. Conceptual liberty says that these, you shouldn't have insane asylums. I just fucked up my camera. Shouldn't have insane asylums because that is infringing on someone's personal space and basically making them into a captive. But at the same time, like we're talking about, the real world consequences of violent people attacking people on a daily basis, knifing people, beating people, throwing old women into train tracks, lowering property values across the board, causing health hazards. These are issues that have to be solved. And we do not live in a libertarian society where you can simply kick them out of your town. This is not a place that exists because every single government entity can control this. You can't push these people into the next city and have them just go, okay, we'll keep pushing them, push them into the ocean. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. You're going to have Minnesota crazy ICE protesters out there. You're going to have, governments as we do now saying that you can't move the homeless. And that's the way it was in LA. You couldn't move the fucking homeless off the streets because the leftist liberals precluded you from doing that. And they're the ones that dominate the government right now. So you have to have something like this, an executive order that comes in to say enough is enough. And I hate it. I hate that executive orders exist, but I'm asking you people to be rational. There comes a point where philosophy and reality have to come to a middle ground. And that's what we're seeing here. So interesting. Interesting times. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is I wanted to get a little bit into some pop culture in the two different aspects. One is that Nintendo has introduced a woman as its new CEO, and she is whoops, I just opened up something weird. What the fuck did I just do here? That was odd. I didn't even know I could do that. I just opened up a split screen of whatever in my email, and I don't know how to get the fucking thing to go away now. Oh, good. I closed my Gmail. Fantastic. Well, I guess I'll find that clip in a minute. So anyway, Nintendo's introduced a new female CEO. And the first thing she does, right? And you'd expect the Japanese to not go down the path of DEI nonsense, especially because Japanese as a culture are now trying to get rid of even the immigrants that they have coming in now that are completely counter to Japanese culture of, respect, of being, clean and respectful in public and being quiet, they're trying to get rid of all the people that they brought in. But they also have rejected for example, the calls for DEI and woke horseshit in the content they're creating. You know, the Mario Brothers movie was actually a great movie. It didn't have stupid bullshit in it. It wasn't aggravating. It wasn't preachy. The Zelda movie, the live action Zelda they're making, everybody wanted them to cast this, this trans chick who, when she's all dolled up, or he's all dolled up, however you want to say it, it looks pretty hot. Okay. Passable. But shouldn't be fucking Zelda, because Zelda's not a trans. So they were like, no, we're not doing that. We're casting a hot chick to be Zelda. Good job, Nintendo. But they go and they hire this terrible woman who's now become the CEO. And of course, coming right out of the gate, she has to go and say some woke ass nonsense about bringing in quote unquote diverse Devin Pritchard. That's her name. I got this open. This woke nonsense. Every dream matters. Everyone deserves to do meaningful work in gaming and storytelling. It's going to be awful. She's going to suck. They shouldn't have put an American woman in front of this, in charge of this project. Gaming as a whole has been taking its lumps because they keep creating games that people don't want to play because of preachy, diverse nonsense. They keep hiring horrible, quote unquote, diverse writers. I mentioned before these writers, and it's uncanny. All of these failed games from Sony and from, oh God, what's the big one that just got bought out by the Saudis? EA. I think maybe Activision. Dragon Age Veilguard is a perfect example, or Concord. All of these had the same type of person at the top of the food chain designing them and writing them. They were all trans men that had transitioned to female that were somehow put in charge of these games. Every single one of them. What are the odds that less than 1% of the population can be in charge of 4 of the biggest games that came out last year, all of which fucking bombed? What are the odds? There's no world in which that should be happening. Not statistically, is my point. Not statistically. It's impossible without forced intent. And they made terrible games because they're leading with activism rather than content, rather than an actual, as I said, a resonating with the audience, an intent of making a good, fun, engaging game, rather than I'm going to jerk myself off and make you view my worldview as your worldview, and damn the game and damn the experience. This woman coming to Nintendo is going to do that same shit. And I don't know how these people are not waking up to this fact and seeing what's going on. SNL, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, Saturday Night Live, sees the writing on the wall. There's a reason Bowen Yang, the most overrated, least funny, most garbage person that's ever been on SNL, just left the show. Thank God. Now, whether he left or was forced out, I don't know, but I'm happy as hell he's gone because he was the most left-wing, shit-eating fuck on that show, and he was despicable to watch. He was unfunny and terrible because he led with activism all the time. They just made a sketch, which of course has pissed off the woke lefties, making fun of Stranger Things and the coming out scene. It wasn't the only thing they made fun of, by the way. It was actually one of the few funny sketches I've ever seen on that show. And I would play it here, but then I'll get docked and demonetized on YouTube. But they had a bunch of great scenes. They had one where, like the character that played Will, I think, on the show, or Mike, the character that played Mike on the show. Will's the one that came out gay. The character that played Mike was the guy that's hosting. He had the black kid and the little doofusy kid with the big hair who had bad teeth on the show. They were kind of co-hosts with him. They did a funny sketch where Netflix, which is spinning off everything and trying to, really suck all the marrow out of the bones of Stranger Things, already has spin-off shows in the works. Well, SNL does a joke about spin-off shows. One of which is a reporter show. One of which is a show with the 3 boys, not the gay one though. The 3 boys are now in New York City and they're doing a Sex and the City ripoff. It was funny. I laughed for the first time in 10 years watching an SNL sketch when they're talking about, oh man, the big city. And there was like drinking a Cosmo, gabbing it up, talking like Carrie whatever her fucking name is on Sex and the City. Sex and the City. Great sketch. And then they cut to the gay character, Will. And the joke was that in the culminating episode of the penultimate episode of Stranger Things, right? The big wrap up for the show, like 8 minutes of the show, longer than the actual battle with the supervillain in the show. 8 minutes of the show was based around this kid fucking coming out as gay. And everybody was like, why? Why is this taking so long? Why is this so drawn out? Nobody cares about people coming out as gay. It's 2026, for fuck's sake. No one cares. 8 minutes of the show dedicated just to that crap. And the Duffer Brothers, who wrote Stranger Things, said that they spent way more time on that scene than they did on anything else in the final episode of this show everybody's been watching. Well, it was obvious that you derelicted your duty here by not paying attention to the actual show people care about and focusing on this one stupid scene. So the SNL joke is that they have the scene with Will, and there's a show that he's not in any of the other spinoff shows because he's still talking in this gay scene. That was the joke. They weren't making fun of him for being gay. They weren't making fun of gay people. They weren't making fun of gay culture. They were just making fun of the fact that the scene was so long. And the joke was that it was still going on. As everyone else is doing other shows, he's still doing that monologue. That was the joke. And the left lost their minds over it. Oh, I can't believe one asshole I saw posted this comment. It's just so disappointing to see the gay people in the butt of jokes in 2026. Like, no, you weren't the butt of the joke. The joke is about the Duffer Brothers. The joke is about the show. You're stupid, but your whole identity is based around being upset and being offended. But Saturday Night Live knows where the culture has moved. Mark my words. I said this before. I mean, it was last year. Lorne Michaels will make a change or Saturday Night Live will go under because it's lost its relevancy because it only appeals to the ultra woke lefties. He will either change or die. And I was right. You're seeing the change. All right. Last thing. Oh, no, that was it. I went through all my things. Those are all the things. All right, guys, remember, not that any of you are doing it, jerks, but if you did, write a review for it. Woke Word Wars, hilarious new card game from me. It's available on Amazon. It is a frickin' hoot. So please do buy one. And if you do buy one, leave a review. We also, I just did we've got our how-to video up on Amazon and on our socials now. So I'll show you exactly how to play the game. It's a lot of fun, guys. Do check it out. And don't forget, you can get bonus content here by going to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty and lionsofliberty.locals.com. I will be doing my morning rants the next 2 days. I was out of town, so I just got back into town. But and a lot of snow was in the Pocono Mountains. A lot of snow. I know a lot of you are going to be getting a lot of snow coming up. So you've got plenty of time to order a Woke Word Wars and play it while you're trapped inside your house. All right. So anyway, sign up for the Patreon. Hit subscribe. Hit like. Follow us. All that good stuff. All right, guys. Thank you from me, Brian McWilliams, from the Lions of Liberty Network, and from Mean Age Daydream. Keep those electric eyes on me, babe, and keep that ray gun pew, pew, to my head. Peace out.